Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, we're talking about a road to redemption after being cancelled. This moment in our industry is seeing a proliferation, and it's not just in our industry. This is happening all over, I guess, in every industry and in our personal lives, etc., etc. Social media has dictated that certain groups of people are going to be responsible for telling everybody what they should think and how they should act and what they should say, etc., etc. And if you don't agree with certain groups, they're going to cancel you out. And we're definitely seeing that in the coffee industry. And to my mind, what this moment in history should be about is the idea of addressing people's inherent sense of entitlement. And I'm assuming by the time this makes it onto wherever, if you're watching this or listening to it, there will be a post up on the Elixir Specialty Coffee website about me as the CEO of Elixir, where I stand on this issue of race and entitlement and equality and all that kind of stuff. It's like an open letter from me as the CEO to our current and future customers. And it's also me setting an example for the industry and kind of walking the talk about coming out and saying exactly what I mean. And, in the last episode, we were talking about, cancel culture and group thinking, etc., and advocating for the idea of independent thinking. Well, this is me showing you how I think independently and how I got to thinking the way that I think about this particular issue. We should, given everything that's happening, be addressing inherent entitlement and how inherent entitlement has led to things like white supremacy, like overreach in power, like inequality, and all of those things that keep coming with systematic abuse of power that is the underlying current of what perpetuates racism and a whole bunch of other isms in the world. Somewhere in there, in all of this cancel culture and group thinking, we have got rid of the nuance of the conversation and consequently cancelled people out. And the cancelling out of people has been fucking brutal. And while there are some people who have just said some horrible, horrible shit, we need to examine as an industry the way that we cancel people out and what the consequence of that cancelling is. Because if we're cancelling people and not giving them a road to redemption, we are bullying people into a hole that they can never get out of. And Brené Brown, who is a incredibly famous and brilliant researcher on this subject of shame, talks about the difference between shame and guilt and how shame is one of those emotions. It's the lowest possible emotion that a human can feel. And once we cancel people out and we brutally shame them the way that the coffee industry does, and it's not the whole coffee industry, it's a very loud part of an emerging group of people that either really do believe what they're saying or are too scared to not agree with these people in case they also get cancelled out. And I'm starting to see a bunch of piss weak business owners that just want to jump on the bandwagon of virtue signaling people just so that they themselves don't get cancelled out. And if you're one of those people, you're probably not listening to this podcast. But if you are one of those people, I'd suggest that time is not going to be, or history is not going to favour you when it comes to, at some point you're going to have to start sticking up for what your values are and make value statements that you can live by. But that's a whole different podcast episode. The road to redemption. We need to talk about what that means, and we need to talk about how we apply it in our industry. I'm not going to speak about specifics because there are a lot of instances that are happening right now where people are getting cancelled. I'm one of them. And what I'm starting to see is the shame that's being applied to people is it's pushing them into a dark place that means that everything else that they've done in their life that may have been a great contributor to the industry is completely irrelevant. And a few little fuck ups here and there that it doesn't matter if they learn from them or not, because they fucked up, they're completely cancelled. And we as an industry need to understand the difference between somebody who really does something that isn't redeemable versus somebody who's just fucked up. Someone who's just fucked up and apologized and realizes that they made a mistake, if we shame them into a hole and we don't give them a way to make amends for what they've done, it sets us up for being the kind of industry and having the kind of culture that doesn't allow people to grow. And what ends up happening is this weakness of character and culture that doesn't invite people into a space where they can learn and grow and understand. So people will be too scared to ask you, hey, listen, I don't understand what the big problem with the current situation is. Pick anything. Pick the coffee value chain price crisis. Pick the race relations that are going on here in the US and around the world. Pick the masks from the pandemic. Pick the protests from people wearing masks and not wearing masks during the pandemic. All of these things. If we create a culture where people cannot find a road to redemption, a way to get okay with the industry after they fuck up, they're not going to dare to fuck up. Now, an industry where you are filled with people who don't dare to fuck up, that's an industry that doesn't grow. That's an industry that doesn't innovate. I cannot tell you the number of people in the last 5 years, 6 years since I've had Elixir that have come to me and said, hey, listen, I've got this idea and I'd really like to run with it, but I watched what the industry did to you when you came out with Elixir, and that was fucking brutal. How do I avoid it? How do I avoid people paying attention to me when I innovate? We can't have an industry like that progresses if we don't allow people the space to fuck up. Because what I've found with people, when they realize they've fucked up, a lot of the time it wasn't an intentional fuck up. That's the difference between somebody who is out to maliciously crush people and destroy people and really take advantage of them versus people who fuck up. Now, when people fuck up, a lot of the time they're unaware of their sense of entitlement, their inherent entitlement. So you'll get people saying things that are insensitive and that are racist and that are egregious. They'll say things because they think they're entitled to do whatever the fuck they want. And once it's pointed out to them that, hey, dickhead, you can't talk like that to people. What should happen from there is a discussion about, what do you mean I can't talk like that to people? Why can't I talk like that to people? And there's a conversation. But what we do is like, you can't talk like that to people and we are going to crush you. Instead of helping that person step into their empathy, step out of their inherent entitlement and start to be a better fucking human. When we crush people, we crush ourselves. We stifle the growth of our industry. We stay stuck in price crises. We are seeing the dissolving of our industry because of a number of situations. This fucking industry is built on slavery. For everybody who wants to destroy somebody for saying a particular word or for reposting something, remember, you're not perfect. You play a role in supporting an industry that has held up slavery for generations. You are complicit in this problem too. It's just that right in this moment, no one's standing there pointing a million fucking swords at you. And I hope you never are on the receiving end of that. I hope nobody ever tries to destroy you. I hope that you are never the target of the hate that this industry so easily wants to tear people down with. But listen, we got to start elevating each other. We got to start stepping into empathy and helping each other see the things that aren't instilled in empathy, aren't about community, real community, not the community that this industry touts. We're all about community. We're not about community. You can't be about community and then be the first person out there ready to shame anyone who tries something different. That's not community. Community is not about let's all just show up to a latte art competition and hit back some beers and let's support each other. That's not the best way to show community. That's a gathering. Community is about elevating each other, and we've got to get better at it as an industry. And when we do, the beautiful revolutionary shit that we will start to see happen as an industry, we'll really see. All of us. We'll stop being pressed down as an industry, and we will start to take off. We won't see businesses that are operating at 3% net profit. We won't see baristas being paid minimum wage that isn't a livable wage. We won't see value chains that are collapsing under the chokehold of debilitating pricing. We won't see roasters going out there and telling everybody, hey, like we support an amazing value chain, but yet they're the ones that are profiting the most out of all of this. It's just broken, and we got to get better at making it functional and healing this. And when somebody fucks up, for the love of all things holy, don't jump on the bandwagon of shaming them and making them feel like there's no way back. I have watched Twitter mobs destroy people who have contributed so much to this industry, end up getting pushed into a hole that they never want to come out of again recently. And that doesn't do any of us any kind of good. So please consider the role that you're playing in this, and consider how we can all be a part of elevating this industry and each other. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.